Hey guys, this is Garrett Wong, also known as Ensign Harry Kim from Star Trek Voyager, and you're watching Astronomy Live.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Stop.
Hello, welcome to Astronomy Live. Tonight, I'm going to be streaming Saturn and Jupiter. I'm using an 11-inch, boy, there's a Freudian slip, 11-inch NexStar GPS, not the old LX200. That rate response was a little high. So yeah, this is, I think, the first time I've streamed Saturn properly with the new telescope and Blackmagic camera. We had a few clouds while I was setting up, but they've cleared off. Hopefully that condition remains the case. I'm going to tweak around with the focus just a little bit here. And yes, I can overexpose to show Saturn's moons. So when I adjust the frame rate, I have to unplug and replug the camera, because the capture card doesn't know what to do with that. There's faintly a moon right next to Saturn, I think. In fact, I think I see two just below the planet. Could almost be mistaken for hot pixels, but they twinkle a little bit. So yeah, that would be down and to the right. Noise up there. If I understand this correctly. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Dione and Rhea. Apparently the view is that correct? Mirrored horizontally as well as vertically? So that would now be the correct true angle of everything, if that's the case. So Titan is off to the side. Now I am zoomed in a little bit here, that's why I'm streaming at 720p. I'm actually punched into roughly 720p resolution on the camera, so the planet stands out more. But I can zoom that back out. So let me do that. So now you can see full frame. Let me just adjust that a little more. There we go. So that's the full frame of the camera, and Titan is off to the left there. So that's the bright star you see to the left of Saturn. Just above Saturn you can see Tethys a little bit. It's very faint, but it's there. So I can see 2 moons below Saturn, 1 moon just above Saturn, and then Titan off to the far left. We also have much further down at the bottom one more little star. It looks like it's going to be Hyperion. So, quite a few moons in view there. Okay, let's go ahead and zoom back in. And now I'm going to tweak the focus and exposure accordingly. That's a pretty good view right there. Pretty happy with that focus. I'm going to record another clip here. Because we should be near the zenith, I think. Or not the zenith, I wish. No, we should be near the meridian right now, I think. Yeah, it transits the meridian at 10:41 p.m. Eastern Time. So just about 17 minutes from now is when it will be highest in the sky and at its very clearest for the evening. I should get a P1000. Yeah, Kara, I'm sure you've probably seen Red's Rhetoric's video doing the head-to-head between this telescope and a P1000. Oh, I didn't see you saying that, Kaiser. This is filming from Florida. Hi, Renee. Hopefully the stream quality is coming through good. Normally I would stream at full 1080p, but since we're doing planetary tonight, I thought I'd punch in digitally and then save some bandwidth by streaming at 720. Oh. Sorry, I didn't. Little echo there. I accidentally somehow got the audio up on my phone. Was trying to view the chat on the phone and accidentally activated the audio on the phone. So this is an 11-inch Celestron NexStar GPS. That's the telescope. Okay, thanks, Sam. Glad the stream quality's doing fine. Yeah, my pleasure for sharing. Now, if anyone's been waiting for it, I haven't yet released the compiled version of NeoTracker because I wanted to do some more testing and haven't had time to get to it today. You may have heard we're going to potentially be getting a hurricane here in Florida. Not sure if it's going to hit me yet. I'm going to keep an eye on the forecast, but been trying to get things buckled down around the house here in preparation, just in case. But I am going to try to get that out this weekend at the very least. I wanted to do some more testing to verify that it's working as well as it can. The testing I did indoors seemed to suggest that at very low rates, the scope's behaving a little weird, and that might be a quirk of the NexStar scope rather than something inherent with the software itself. I could try to chase that problem, but I might inadvertently be creating problems for other people's scopes that work better. I don't know. But your scope does need to support the move axis method for this to work. There's also a totally separate method that will work with an LX200 Classic, and that's what I'm primarily going to be using to try to track Artemis 1 after it launches. Going to be trying to track the Orion capsule into deep space. Theoretically, I could also use this scope with NeoTracker, but I don't know how well behaved it would be. Later tonight, I might try to play around with that a bit and just see what happens. Because in theory, I can use it to track planets too. You could tell it to go track Saturn or Jupiter using real-time data from JPL Horizons. So that's the new feature, is the ability to pull in data in real time from JPL Horizons with the API and use that for tracking. And yes, I'm using a 2.5x Barlow, Luminos Barlow from Celestron. It's easily the nicest Barlow I've had, and I'm pretty happy with it. It's a natively 2-inch Barlow, so it accepts the 2-inch nose piece of the camera, and it goes into the 2-inch star diagonal for the telescope, which helps when, say, filming the moon or anything else that you have illumination across the field. You don't get as much vignetting. Just tweaking the focus there again a little bit. I don't know if the scope has settled to its final temperature. Nice thing about this 11-inch scope I've got is it's got the carbon fiber tube, so you don't get as much thermal expansion and shift of focus due to temperature changes of the tube as you would with a metal tube. And yeah, you can see the shadow of Saturn on its rings there in the back. It's definitely visible. The camera is a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K, and I'm using a HDMI capture card. It's a Live Gamer Plus. Never used it for gaming, but it works great for camera capture. I'm going to grab a sip of water, and I'll be right back. So I have to be really careful traveling from my house to the scope tonight. I ran across a snake in the yard earlier this evening as I was setting up. A little hard to tell the colors on it because I've got a red flashlight on my head, and you can't really see colors so well with that. But I was able to turn on the house lights and verify that, yeah, it's red on black, so friend of Jack, not an issue. Still, not looking to get bit tonight, so trying to keep an eye out for him, but I haven't seen him lately. He's small enough he can hide pretty well in the grass. Unfortunately, the only reason I really saw him because he was moving. It's one of the, I guess for better or worse, comes with the territory of living in a fairly suburban or remote, not entirely remote, but remote enough that we get bobcats, we get all kinds of snakes, we get all kinds of wildlife around here, but you get better astronomy. Staying away from the city lights as best I can. Not so important for planets, though. So even if you live in a big city, it's worth getting a scope to see the rings of Saturn, because although I can do the best I can to provide a live stream of it here, you really ought to experience it at least once in an eyepiece and see it for yourself with your own eyes. It's really quite breathtaking, and you can see it just fine from any city. It's bright enough that the city lights really won't matter. Same goes for Jupiter, same goes for the space station even. But for doing deep space work, you definitely need to get away from the city lights. So we're reaching the meridian now. I'm going to go ahead and tweak the focus one more time and run another minute-long clip. I'm going to record it at 4K and use that for stacking. So I've still been using Registacks for stacking my planetary shots like this, and I'm getting the feeling that's probably out of date and passé. So if you have any recommendations for stacking software that I should switch to, pop it in the chat and I'll take a look. One of the limitations I'm finding with Registacks is it tends to run out of memory with these big 4K images. So I tend to do a little pre-processing and crop it down to try to fit more in the stack, but I'm still running up against issues running out of memory, and it's not a limitation of the computer, I feel. I think it's more how Registacks is handling it. So I'm pretty sure there's better alternatives out there in 2022, and I'm just not familiar with them. So I've cranked the ISO to its maximum, 25,600, and cranked the exposure down to 1/120th of a second, trying to get a different series of settings here, maybe beat the seeing a little bit better. It's a little grainier, but it might result in better results when these images are stacked. So I'm going to try that for a couple minutes. Conditions tonight, clear, a little turbulent. Seeing's not great, but making do with it. Auto Stacker, yeah, I've heard of that one. I'll have to check that out. I'm going to bookmark that and take a look later. It's one of those things I would normally just attack it myself with just writing a program in Python to do it, but honestly, when it gets to doing really high quality planetary stacking, you want to be able to do wavelets adjustments and some advanced deconvolutions that I just don't have the experience in writing at that level. So there's products out there, like I'm sure Auto Stacker is one of them, that already has all that taken care of, so why waste time doing that myself? Yeah, this is definitely an unconventional use of the Blackmagic camera. But I was watching a Corridor Digital video where they were talking about the Blackmagic, and at the time it seemed like a good idea, because I wanted something that not only would be used for planetary imaging like this, but also filming rocket launches. Like, that's a big thing for me, obviously. And so having a standalone system that could do that without even having to record to a PC, because the PC is going to be taken up doing real-time tracking of the rocket. It needs to be able to handle everything on its own. It needs to be able to shoot in 4K. It needs to be able to handle real color very well and render that beautifully, which this does. And so, you know what? The Blackmagic turned out to be a great option because it's also lightweight, so it doesn't throw the balance of the telescope off very much. And it's very high quality. Reduce the ISO to 12,800 and crank the exposure up to 1/60th. Tends to produce a little less of a grainy real-time view for the purposes of the live stream now that I'm done recording. Some Saturn Facts. Well, let's see here. Currently, Saturn is almost exactly 9.1 astronomical units away. So that means the light you're looking at left the planet 75 minutes ago. You're actually looking back in time 75 minutes. Some other little tidbits. Diameter of the planet, 120,000 kilometers, about 9.5 times the size of the Earth. The mass is 95 times the mass of the Earth. And the rotation period, 10 hours, 14 minutes. Now, because of the considerable volume, the density, despite being 95 times the mass of the Earth, is less than that of water. It's about 0.65 grams per cubic centimeter. So that means if you could find enough water, Saturn would float. And Kaiser just said it in the chat. There you go. Now let's see. I'm wondering what the configuration looks like for Jupiter right now. Didn't really have time to plan this out tonight, but I just knew the weather was going to be clear, so it'd be fun to do some planetary streaming. But I haven't even taken a look yet at what we should expect to see with Jupiter. Doesn't look like we currently have any planetary transits. Doesn't look like the Great Red Spot will be visible right now. Not planetary transits, I should say. Lunar moons transiting Jupiter. Great Red Spot doesn't become visible till closer to 4 a.m. Unfortunately. Now, the other challenge I have, and hopefully AutoStacker can help with this, is that I'm out as aligned, so field rotation is a factor, and that can lead to some trouble there. Ooh, focus is kind of wavy there. See, that was actually just bad seeing there for a second. The tracking is nice, but it is going to have field rotation in it, so if you time-lapse this over even just a couple minutes, you'll see Saturn appears to rotate slightly, even if the tracking's perfect. And that leads to stacking issues. So, one thing I ought to do is record with the time set properly. I have a feeling the clock on the camera is not currently set properly. So I ought to record a clip and make note of the exact time. I could computationally derotate that way. One of these days I'll get around to writing a general utility derotation program to compensate for field rotation. But for that I need to know the exact time, so hang on a second. Okay. On my mark, the time will be 10:51 and 12 seconds local time. Mark. And one more mark at my mark, the time will be 10:51 and 25 seconds PM local time. Mark. So theoretically I can use the time to figure out what the field rotation should have been over the course of the clip and derotate each frame based on that. Where's Jupiter? Well, coming up in the southeast from here in Florida. It's very bright and very obvious. Are the binoculars look good for looking at other planets? Sure. I mean, you can definitely see the moons of Jupiter in a good pair of binoculars. Could be kind of tricky, though, to see Saturn's rings, unless you have a tripod to stabilize really good binoculars. Yeah, my hands are not steady enough to even really see the rings with binoculars. But I got pretty shaky hands, to be honest. But I have had the fortune of getting to use a pair of very nice binoculars that were on a tripod at a star party, and that was a whole different experience. That's more like having a proper telescope. Does the other gas giants have rings? Yes, they do. Now, they can't always be observed from Earth, Jupiter included, at least with a regular telescope like this. But they do. They do have rings. So what do you guys think about moving on to Jupiter to take a look at it? Think it's about time we took a look at Jupiter? I'm going to zoom this frame back out to get the full frame view. Jupiter may not quite land in the field of view at this high magnification with the Barlow lens on, so I may have to step it off and go back to no Barlow lens for a moment to find Jupiter and get it in the frame. We'll see how it does. Let's go ahead and slew the telescope over to Jupiter. Alright. Oh no, an ad for oh man. I wish I had control over what ads they showed. That's ridiculous. Sorry. I do love this camera. The other thing I love about the Blackmagic camera is you get really good dynamic range out of it. So you can really see the moons of Jupiter along with the planet itself. I mean, that's pretty incredible. Not accustomed to that with older cameras that I've had. You could barely see them normally, but at this exposure, that'd be pretty tough normally. But this camera, like I said, has really wide dynamic range capability. It does record high bit depth video, which is very important for doing astronomy. So the maximum brightness values to the minimum brightness values range a lot wider than an 8-bit image, which is, 0 to 255. This is from 0 to 255 squared. So, from left to right, the moons you're seeing are Ganymede, Io, and Europa. Oops. Now, I'm wondering when Callisto is going to be visible. Oh, it is visible. It's just further away, not in the frame. Not in the field of view, not even close. But 3 out of 4 of the Galilean moons, that's not bad. And for reference, we're now looking much closer than Saturn. Jupiter's current distance is 3.95 astronomical units, so the light that you're seeing took 32, almost 33 minutes to get here from Jupiter. Jupiter reaches opposition on Monday, and yeah, the diameter is 142,984 kilometers, or 11.21 times the diameter of Earth. And with a mass of 317.8 Earths, its density is greater than water, so it would sink. Yes, Jupiter's gravity is quite significant. Trying to position it so I get that little dust mote out of the way. There's one little dust mote. Naturally, it's right in the middle of my Barlow, so there we go. That's decent. Record a clip of that. I hope that's the case. I hope we don't get hit by that hurricane. But definitely going to keep my eyes peeled in the next couple days. For the camera, on my mark, the time will be 11:01 and 40 seconds p.m. Eastern Time. Mark. Okay, I'm going to move Jupiter around a little bit here and zoom in. That's pretty good. Pardon the helicopter flying over. Man, they were gone a while. That's a medevac chopper. Put the ISO at 8,000. I think that's a good value there. Astro Surface to Auto Stacker to Registax. Astro Surface. Okay, I've not heard of that one before. Thank you. Take a look at that. Bookmark that one. Well, the compensation for field rotation is a trick. I've tried to use Registax with multi-point tracking to undo the rotation. I don't tend to use WinJupos. I've tried it before. I'm just not big on it, I guess. What I've done in the past is I've just done straight up rolling averages with 1 minute or less of images, and then run that into a time lapse. And I've got software, I've written scripts to basically do that automatically. So the field rotation, if you're doing multi-point tracking, in theory you can just take it right out, but Registax multi-point tracking, in my experience, is not reliable. It's not great. That's why it's a pain. Now, I could computationally take it out using the time and rotate the images based on the amount of time that's elapsed and do that kind of thing. And that's what I'm going to try. Man, the scene, you can really see Jupiter rippling under the effects of the scene there for a bit. But, yeah, no, I'm going to try to do that. There's probably, I'm sure there's software out there that does that kind of thing automatically already, but I can picture in my head how to write it with a script. And, I might just do that. We're going to see the moon, too. Don't know if I'm going to stay up late enough for the moon to become a viable target. Have I ever tried a QHY or ZWO camera? No, not really. I had the funds for one camera, and this was it. It had to be a compromise camera that could do a lot of things. Could do launch videos, could do standalone recording, that kind of thing. 4K 60 FPS with high bit depth and good color response, and this was the camera that fit that bill. I think it's a pretty good camera, though. I mean, it does have a rolling shutter from being a CMOS, but it's not bad. I'm quite happy with it. I wouldn't change that decision. It's unconventional for sure, but I would not change that decision. Yeah, I hadn't checked the moon's phase even, but it would definitely be, it's definitely not going to be for tonight. And I see a cloud bank coming in too. We'll see how that does. That might end the show early tonight. I was going by clear sky clock when I scheduled this, but then I took a look at the broader forecast, and yeah, my area is supposed to be clear, but just south of me is supposed to be really cloudy. So, although it showed clear through the night, it was kind of deceptive, because if it's even a little bit wrong about where that cloud front is, then I'm out of luck. I swear I hear raccoons going crazy behind me. Yeah, definitely close to dawn. Yeah. Well, I will be right back in just a second. Yeah, what did I say about clouds? They're now starting to cover up Jupiter. That's why it got so much dimmer. Alright, this is maximum exposure, maximum ISO, but you can see it's gotten grainier now. And the image is not as clear thanks to the cloud cover. It looks pretty solid, so we might be wrapping up here pretty soon, unfortunately. But I can't control the weather. Yep, that's how it goes sometimes. Yeah, it's rolling in fast. I can still see Saturn by eye, but it's definitely gonna start taking targets away. It's in and out of the clouds, yeah. It's kind of coming and going. But it's going to get thicker from what I'm seeing on the horizon coming up, so I'm going to wrap it up here in case we get any freak showers or anything. I just don't want to risk the equipment. But I want to thank you all for joining me tonight. I certainly enjoyed streaming Saturn and Jupiter for you all. I've got some recorded clips of this in 4K, and I'll be processing that into stacked images that I'll post on Twitter, and also probably put up a little short, a YouTube short or something like that. Oh man, you can really see it getting thick there. Again, this is maximum ISO, maximum exposure. But yeah, we're gonna wrap it up here. And like I said, I'll upload the 4K recordings along with the stacked pictures when I get them. But I'll take a look at some of that software you guys recommended. Thank you for that. And we'll see what works best. So until next time, clear skies, folks.